Hello class, my name is Nathan and today we'll be going over the ethical issues Wells Fargo has had over the years. I will first give you a brief overview of Wells Fargo and then go into the organizational overview of the company. You will then hear from Benny, who will go over key concepts and analysis. Next, you will hear from Gabriella, who will go over recommendations for Wells Fargo dealing with ethical issues. Next, you will hear from Amanda, who worked for Wells Fargo for over 4 years. She will go over what it was like working for the company by giving personal experiences. Lastly, you will hear from James, who will wrap up our presentation for our team. Enjoy. Wells Fargo and Company is an American multinational financial services company headquartered in San Francisco, California. It is the world's fourth largest bank by market capitalization and the fourth largest bank in the U.S. by total assets. Wells Fargo was ranked number 26 on the 2018 Fortune 500 rankings of the largest U.S. corporation by total revenue. And in September 2016, Wells Fargo was found to be in the wake of a scandal involving the creation of over 2 million fake bank accounts by Wells Fargo employees. This scandal led to a series of downfall moments which brought this once top 10 company falling to many competitors. The challenges faced by Wells Fargo's structure can be exemplified by their troubles faced with society, such as the Philadelphia lawsuit, which accuses Wells Fargo of increasing banking costs to African Americans and Hispanic borrowers. The Securities and Exchanges Commissions, or also known as SEC, fined Wells Fargo on 2 separate occasions. One for failing to report on money laundering, and the other for not disclosing risks associated with complex investments. Lastly, Wells Fargo faced a class action lawsuit costing them $203 million from the accusations of imposing excessive overdraft fees on checking account customers. This class action lawsuit affected many and is one of Wells Fargo's most talked about lawsuits ever.
Hi class, my name is Benny. In this section I will discuss the non-ethical conditions in accordance to 2 ethical theories, finance of ethics and fraud in reference to the Wells Fargo scandal. First, let's analyze how Wells Fargo fell into the unethical practices of opening millions of bank accounts. Cross-selling. According to businessdictionary.com, cross-selling is the act in which an employee of a business asks the customer if they would like to purchase other items to complement their current purchase. In the case of Wells Fargo, if you opened a car loan, the sales associate would ask you if you would like to open either a checking account or a line of credit to complement their current account. The information collected from the customer was used to open other accounts via cross-selling without the customer's permission, and has caused an ethical stir in the banking industry. The practice was frowned upon and noticed after a few whistleblowers decided to talk to upper management about the current training and practice of meeting the sales goals via cross-selling. The ethical theories found in relation to the Wells Fargo scandal can range over several different spans. However, for the purpose of this analysis, the team has decided on 2 that will help the reader understand the duty the bank has to the shareholder, along with the unethical practice involving the customer's accounts. The first ethical theory discussed will be finance of ethics. According to the Encyclopedia of Business Ethics and Society, finance is concerned broadly with the generation, allocation, and management of monetary resources for any purpose. It includes personal finance, whereby individuals save, invest, and borrow money to conduct their lives. Corporate finance, whereby business organizations raise capital mainly through the issue of stocks and bonds and manage it to engage in economic production. And public finance, whereby governments raise revenue by means of taxation and borrowing and spending it to provide services for their citizens. The framework attached to this ethical theory says most financial activity takes the form of financial contracting in which two parties come to some mutual agreement. For example, bank loans and stock trades are each kinds of contracts. This is a clear example of the obligation a bank has to protect the interests of the customer while serving the interests of the stakeholders. More will be discussed in a paper submitted to the instructor. The second theory discussed will be that of fraud. According to the Encyclopedia of Business Ethics and Society, fraudulent acts include the forging of documents, tampering with scales and measures, false bookkeeping, and intentionally lying in contractual negotiations. In ethical terms, fraud combines deliberate falsehoods with a conscious willingness to prey on the trusting nature and reliance needs of others. Hence, fraudulent acts carry strong moral disapprobation. There are several elements attached to this theory along with several legal ramifications of fraudulent activities. In the case of the Wells Fargo scandal, approximately 30 employees were fired for opening new accounts and issuing debit or credit cards without customer knowledge, in some cases by forging signatures. This was a clear injustice to the customers and a serious breach of contract, as the customers had faith in the institution that their information from previous services would not be used for any other purpose but to only sell the product and not issue new products without permission. More will be discussed in the paper submitted to the instructor.
Hello, this is Gabriela Ramirez, and I will be going over our team recommendation for Wells Fargo. First, I'd like to start with what Wells Fargo states they are doing. Wells Fargo says their values surround from what's right for customers, people as a competitive advantage, ethics, diversity and inclusion, and leadership. They finish with, we have made strong progress in building the kind of culture that our team members expect and deserve. We will assess that many practices put in place over the past 2 years and enhance them. Although this is what Wells Fargo states, as consumers, we look from the outside in, and in looking, we see no changes and have fear of going into these locations. Here is what our team recommends. First, show the value of the organization's most important stakeholders that have been tarnished by bad business practice ethics, employees, and consumers. For the employees, decrease sales incentives for the next few years until reputation can be fixed and they feel the need to sell with integrity. For the customer, add promotions, create digital enhancements that shows what they are signing up for, have a follow-up team give calls randomly to ensure right practices are being met. Store culture needs to change from numbers-driven to people-driven, starting from the top down, which includes, but is not limited to, termination and retraining of leadership. Training and development will be key. Wells Fargo must enact new trainings that will be completed organization-wide, and these trainings will reflect the new standards of ethics they are attempting to show the public. That means new sales expectations and how to deliver results with integrity. Finally, and most important, the organization should focus on having social responsibility. This will build employee morale, culture, and perception of the organization will change through the acts seen by the public. Social responsibility goes with having a social media presence through doing good deeds like community outreach program. Wells Fargo has tarnished their relationship with consumers. As many will say, don't mess with my money. And it is time for them to take a hard stand to win back the trust of the banking consumer.
Hi class, my name is Amanda Simmons and I'll be sharing what my personal experience was like working with Wells Fargo. I worked for Wells Fargo for a little over 4 years And while I was there, I worked at 3 different locations. I worked at 2 traditional branch offices and 1 in-store. The in-store locations are the branches or the banking centers that are inside of stores such as like Vaughn's, Walmart, or just any type of store. When I interviewed with Wells Fargo, it was like nothing I'd ever experienced in my life. There were about 25 to 30 of us, all interview ready in our suits and with our resumes. And then we were all shuffled to different offices to interview with different managers. I believe I met with 3 or 4 that day. And then once we got placed, it depended on our home address and which manager liked us the most. So I first started out in the Inland Empire. And we knew going in it was a sales position, but I don't think we knew just how demanding it would be. So the sales goals when I started were 10 a day. And what that needed to consist of was preferably 2 checking accounts. So that would be 2 sales goals. And then the other items that could help you meet your 10 would be a savings account, a debit card, a credit card, online banking, and that's really like the whole package. So if you do 2 checking accounts and then you have the person sign up for a savings account as overdraft protection, a debit card, and online banking, that's 4 sales. So you can really you can hit it fairly simple, but it can also be hard when business is slow. For example, if you have, I think at my branch we had 8 bankers. So if you have 8 bankers and it's a slow day, like a Wednesday or Tuesday, and someone walks in, we're all rushing to get to that person because we all need to hit our sales goals for the day. And there was a conference call every day to, let everyone in the district know how well you were doing or lack thereof. And then there was like a pep rally every morning to get everyone, jazzed up to hit their numbers for the day. So it causes you to think outside the box, which is a great skill to have. But I think for some people it just made them desperate. But that wasn't something that the bank promoted. Wells Fargo had a zero policy for gaming the system. And gaming the system is what you see or what you saw in the news, all those fake accounts. I know personally people at my branch that got terminated for it. So I couldn't believe that it was on such a large scale because it's like, okay, what were their managers doing to not catch it? In training, it was drilled into us that it wasn't tolerated. All the managers I worked for didn't tolerate it, and we had to show kind of how we got our accounts for the day. So I don't know how that many people were doing unethical things, and it's just unfortunate. But I think one way that companies can mitigate stuff like that from happening is from having the leadership be on the front line and not just leaving everything to your employees, because who knows what people will do when they get desperate. And Wells Fargo always promoted that people were their competitive advantage. I had some, you know, great bosses while I was there and some not so great bosses. And I did have an experience that was a wake up call with a manager that I was like, okay, it's time for me to leave. It's been great, but I just decided that it wasn't a good fit for me anymore. It was a lot of pressure, and so I left. But it all comes down to leadership being more involved, and I'm glad to say that I think that as a result of all the negativity, leadership at Wells Fargo is more involved, and there have been more positive changes that have taken place and that are taking place.
Hi there, my name is James Tostin, and today I will be concluding our topic about Wells Fargo and its corporate ethics. As my team members have stated, Wells Fargo's corporate ethics during the scandal became an environment highly focused on numbers versus customer needs. Thank you, Nathan, for providing an overview of Wells Fargo's organization. Fanny effectively spoke about the concept of Wells Fargo's sales practices and gave excellent analysis of why the scandal happened. Gabriella did a great job providing a recommendation on how Wells Fargo could change the focus from being a number-driven company to being more customer-focused. Amanda, a former Wells Fargo employee, providing insider's perspective of how employees became focused on meeting their sales quota by any means necessary versus providing exemplary customer service. She also mentioned Wells Fargo's stance on unethical behavior that was exhibited by these employees. Wells Fargo has made various attempts to make things right. In March of 2019, the CEO of Wells Fargo had to go before the House Financial Services Committee. Democrats and Republicans alike both felt Wells Fargo had not done enough to resolve the issue and did not receive stern enough penalties or fines. Microsoft owner Bill Gates believes your most unhappy customers are your greatest sources of learning. Hopefully, Wells Fargo will learn from their past and listen to their customers for a better future. Thank you.